Al-Maturidi is one of the scholars that was born in Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Samarkand is one of the largest and oldest cities in Central Asia. Al-Maturidi appeared on a compilation of heresies in the conflicting involvement and dialogue that saw lack of defense of the Sunnah at that time. This is understandable because the theology of the majority of that time was more to the Mu'tazilah, Khawarij, Murji'ah, Jabariyah, Jahmiyah, Mujassimah and Mushabihah flow. In this case, it's different as our current ulama are facing with the Shi'ah and Wahhabis who use a lot of jurists and hadith scholars. Social culture during his life. In the 3rd and 4th centuries, whereas Al-Maturidi lived, political situation in the Islamic world that was located in Baghdad was experiencing disintegration, especially since the time of Al-Ma'mun Caliphate. This causes small dynasties existed in the Abbasid territory. Central Asia region was not spared from this situation. Tahiriyah dynasty appeared in Khorasan at the beginning of the 3rd century. After that, it was replaced with Samaniyah dynasty that located in Bukhara. The power included Khorasan and Transoxiana. Under this dynasty, Al-Maturidi spent most of his life. The political situation in the Samaniyah territory was quite stable and freedom of thought was guaranteed enough until it was conducive to the development of knowledge. Samarkand and Bukhara are known as an important place of Islamic culture and knowledge in this region. The people in Central Asia consist of people from Iran, Turkey and Arab. The majority of Muslims follow Mazhab Hanafi. Some of them also follow Mazhab Shafi'i. In the Khorasan area, there is Khawarij flow in Sajistan and Mu'tazilah in Naisabur. Qaramithah Syiah flow are found in this area. Samarkand is a place of discussion of fiqh scholars, Usuluddin and Muhaddithin and Mutakallimin from various mazhab. Al-Maturidi lived in the middle of the race that took place tightly in order to produce reason and thought.
I will continue our discussion with the biography of Abu Mansur Al-Maturidi. His name is Abu Mansur Muhammad bin Mahmud Al-Hanafi Al-Maturidi Al-Samarkandi. He was born between 238 or 258 Hijriah. He was born in Abbasid era at Maturid in Samarkand. The biographers of Al-Maturidi have reached agreement that he died on 333 Hijriah. He was buried in Jakirdiza, a place well known being blessed, Samarkand. He was also known by Imam Al-Huda, which means Imam of Guidance, and Imam Al-Mutakallimin, Imam of the Mutakallimin, and A'lam Al-Huda, Scholar of Guidance. The books of history, the biographical dictionaries, the inscriptions, the geographical works, the obituaries, and the biographies do not contain anything sufficient for the biography of Imam Abu Mansur Al-Maturidi. There has been no researcher who has fully explained his life during his birth, travels, the likes, except for a few references. Imam Al-Maturidi was provided with a long life and a strong intellect, and we see from his books that he was trained in objection and outstanding in debating with proofs, which were mostly from the doubts of the theological rhetoricians. He also fully participated in most of the fields of the Islamic sciences such as tafsir, fiqh, usul and kalam. Therefore, he had knowledge of a number of sciences and actually authored numerous books which indicate his high status in these fields. However, his specialty was in the field of kalam, and much of his life, most of his efforts were in studying kalam and the methodologies of the philosophers. The life of Al-Maturidi is neither known about in detail, nor is how he was raised, how he studied, with whom he studied with and took from, what countries he visited, or if he traveled to meet the scholars. Only 4 of his teachers are mentioned, who have biographies which do not really exist the researcher in understanding Al-Maturidi and his teachers. The first one mentioned was Muhammad bin Muqatil Al-Razi, the second one is Nusayr bin Yahya Al-Balkhi, and the third one is Abu Bakr Al-Juzjani, and the last one is Abu Nas Al-Ayyadi. For the student of Al-Maturidi, a whole load of Al-Maturidi students took the Maturidi Aqidah of Kalam from him and spread it, developed it, assisted it, and classified it in keeping with Mazhab Abu Hanifah in fiqh. As a result, the Maturidi creed became prevalent in those lands more than anything else, just as Hanafi sheikhs were prevalent more than anyone else. Some of his students are Abu Ahmad Al-Iyadi, Abu Hassan Al-Rustughfani, and Abdul Karim Al-Bazdawi. Al-Maturidi has contributed enough in Tawheed with his Al-Maturidiyah. Imam Al-Maturidi wrote many books in different fields, and what will follow is a list of his books, which is in Ilm Kalam, it was Kitab At-Tawheed and Al-Maqalat. On Usul Fiqh, Ma'khis Al-Shar'i and Al-Jadli, and Tafsir At-Ta'wilat Al-Maturidiyah fi Bayani Usul Ahlus Sunnah wa Ahlul Tawheed. That's all from me, thank you.
I want to talk about contribution of Al-Maturidi. First, Kitab Al-Tawheed. Kitab Al-Tawheed is the most remarkable of Al-Maturidi's work in the field of theology. The book Al-Tawheed is monumental work which very nicely expounded the tenets and belief of the Al-Sunnah wa Al-Jama'ah. Specifically, this book contains the answer to thought kalam Mu'tazilah, which caused a spiritual ideological upheaval of Islam's people. So that Al-Maturidi seemed eager to answer it. The existence of the book of Al-Tawheed until now still exists, in a sense of beginning to become a source of research for scientists to find out how it thoughts of Al-Maturidi both for Muslim and non-Muslim scholars means Orientalists. Second, theological exegesis in his book Ta'wilat Ahlus Sunnah. Kitab Ta'wilat Ahlus Sunnah is one of the earliest written in the field of Quranic exegesis. Al-Maturidi is one of Sunni Muslim scholars most revered because of his contribution and influence in Islamic theology evolution. The study and analysis of Ta'wilat Ahlus Sunnah is a significant academic contribution to understanding Islam and understanding basically scholars' contribution to the development of Quranic exegesis in general and the grant of theological exegesis in particular. It reveals Al-Maturidi's insight and existence to theological exegesis, particularly in the context of the verse related to God's attribute. Al-Maturidi developed his definition of tafsir as one of the imperative nations in Quranic exegesis and did not merely imitate early scholars' definition. Third, Usul al-Fiqh. They have two books, Kitab al-Jalal, the text of debate, and Ma'ahid Syariah, the methodologies of Islamic Sharia. These two books become the primary reference for Hanafi scholars in the field of Usul al-Fiqh until the 12th century. In other words, for more than 2 centuries, Hanafi scholars studied and relied on Al-Maturidi books to shape their understanding of the Hanafi school in the discipline of Usul al-Fiqh and by extension the domain of Islamic jurisprudence. 4. Creation in the form of manuscript. Risalah fi al-Qa'id and Syarah al-Fiqh al-Akbar. According to Abu Zahra in his book Tarikh al-Mazahib al-Islamiyah, it is stated that Syarah al-Fiqh al-Akbar included in the work of Al-Maturidi, but Jalal Muhammad Musa has questioned the attribution of this book to Al-Maturidi based on the narration by Al-Kawthari. They claim that the book is not the work of Al-Maturidi but the work Abu Lais al-Samarkand, quoting other reason that the book include objection to some Ash'ari claims. Other than that, Risalah fi al-Qa'id also included the work of Al-Maturidi according to Abu Zahra. The content is difficult to distinguish between the opinion of Al-Maturidi and his students' opinion. Precisely, the two manuscripts are the work of scholars attributed to Al-Maturidi. Thank you.
Okay, I will continue about contribution of Abu Mansur Al-Maturidi. Fifth, theory of God, science of Maturidi school. Maturidi school proposed in adopting speculative method in explaining and proving Islamic problems. theory of God sign of Maturidi school, which is Maturidi school proposed in adopting speculative method in explaining and proving Islamic problems. This school are not only against Mu'tazilah rationalism that out of the rules of the Al-Quran, but also it against on Hanbali inclination to rationalism, which is because Maturidi school use Al-Quran as their norms, but they tend to be rational in explanation and proving Islamic theological problem in specific method. Epistemology is known as theory of knowledge. Epistemology is known as the theory of knowledge. This is regards on how to distinguish between right and wrong. With Maturidi answer the question by analyze the common ground in human beings, cognition to read an agreement, and values and judgment standard. Alright. 6. The opinion of Al-Maturidi in Islam. First, about character of God. Based on Al-Maturidi, God have character of its own. Al-Maturidi is more near to Al-Ash'ari opinion in God character that describe God having physical shape should be interpreted as metaphor, not clearly. Al-Maturidi said that the character of God is intangible. That means a God did not have the similar physical with his creation. Thus, when verse of Al-Quran said about part of God's body, it was just metaphor and not in clear meaning. For example, in the word wajah in Surah Ar-Rahman, A'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim, wa yabqa wajhu rabbika dzul jalali wal ikram. The word wajah meaning rahmat, not wajah in reality. Alright, second, mind and wahyu. Al-Maturidi state that wahyu as the main source and mind as secondary source, which that Al-Maturidi use is more to human mind without excess or overboard. Alright, that's human deeds. Stated by Al-Maturidi, human deeds are creation of God because everything of something that exists its creation. The freedom of human making choice either it good or bad will be on the will good on the will God, but the human can choose if they willing to do it or not. In the other words, human could do everything in good and bad on the basis of the will of God, but it's not forever and it's not all on God willingness. Alright, the last one, the sins and punishment in Islam. As we know, Al-Quran and Hadith did not cover in every single sins and error that happen in the world. For example, how to determine a problem that's similar but the victims were different, such as the difference between a culprit burning down a house with a single person in it and a culprit burning down the house with multiple persons in it. Or how to give explanation rationally regarding Islamic problem. Based from this problem, Al-Maturidi gave his opinion that punishment should be different as it is different in the education of the sins and the involvement of victim in both problems are different. Thank you.
In conclusion, Al-Maturidi is one of the scholars that expert in Usuluddin. There are many contributions from him, for example from his books on Ilmu Kalam, Kitab At-Tauhid. Then the opinion and the theology of Al-Maturidi in Islam. Al-Maturidi succeed in resolving the conflict of theology, concept and discussions such as question about character of God, Sifatullah, mind and wahyu, and etc. That's all from us. Thank you.